Hello and welcome. We're chatting with Suchetna Ray, the editor of Outlook Business Magazine, who's going to tell us what we can expect out of this latest issue of the magazine. So, to begin with, there's this story about how lonely startup founders get. Now, is loneliness a prerequisite to leading a unicorn?
Yes, I'm smiling because we've had this chat before with you, Rifa, and it's as I mentioned before, see, there is nothing like a prerequisite. It's not like it's a beauty pageant where being beautiful or being tall is a prerequisite. Here, the pressures are such, the nature of the job such, the KRAs are such that you tend to lead a life which is very lonely because there's massive pressure. There is a lot of endurance that is required, and it is a startup where everything rests on the founder. There's a very interesting quote that one of the founders gave me. That is, when you start out, you have to tell the team that the money is in place, and we'll get to a place very soon where the product will be accepted by the market. You need to tell your landlord from whom you've taken the office space that, oh, you know, the money is in place and the team is in place. You need to tell your investor the product is in place and the team is in place. You're not really lying, but nothing is actually there. So therefore, this is a life of posturing that begins from there, where you have to have as a founder full conviction in your product, but nobody else can know the pressures that you're going to. The pressures are that you have to scale a company in, say, about 2.5 years. The same timeline is extremely compressed for a startup, because your competitors in the space actually took a decade to do that same sprint. So your timelines are compressed. On top of that, you have the pressure of an investor. Most call it a rat race, where the investor, if they've put in money, they want return on investment. If you tell them maybe the return will come in 2 years, they want it in 6 months. So can you imagine the pressures? All of this alienates from the world. Therefore, most of them actually have dysfunctional families. We've spoken to at least 24 people. We've quoted some of them. We've kept most of their identities secret, because it's a life which is not only lonely, it's very high pressure. It's a life of continuous hustle, and it's a life where you need to continuously think on your feet. Can you imagine this moment you have an incredible high followed by another moment of incredible low? What does it do to your mental state?
Right. So is loneliness now more acute as the going is getting tough due to lack of funds?
It's likely to. Lack of fund, that's what the cover story is about. More than lack of fund, what is happening with investors is that they're going to get very, very cautious. So the entire focus now shifts from user growth to profitability. Now, profitability is a word that Indian startups are not very familiar with. We are familiar with a scenario where there is cash burn, where you burn cash to acquire users. Now, investors are telling you that, okay, good, you have users, I want profitability. And they want profitability again in 2 years. So again, your timelines are very compressed. So exactly, the pressures are going to be even higher. The cautious investors will be extremely choosy when they give you money. Again, high pressure. So yes, the path's likely to get lonelier.
So the situation was so grim that it called for a cover story?
I would say the situation isn't grim, but I think that with Outlook Business, we needed a cover to put the real story out there. You know, there are so many websites, you can count them on the finger, in India who only concentrate on startups. They are massive cheerleaders. Suddenly, I've been noticing that for the past 3-4 months, they've become obituary writers. Now, we need to find out why. Is the situation so grim? The English analogy is winter. But if you ask me personally, I have been reporting on this since February. The issue has come out now, yes. But me and my team, we've been reporting on this since February. It's not winter, definitely. We could call it autumn, but not winter. So we needed to put the correct story out. We also, the USP about the story is that we have survival tactics in place, both for investors as well as for Indian startups. Imagine, these are young guys who are on the right side of 40. So and perhaps they're facing this pressure, this kind of a scenario, global meltdown for the first time in their lives, in their careers. So they need to know the real situation. You need data for that. We've deep dived, given you data, shown you how India could actually be a sweet spot in this entire meltdown that we are seeing across us. Along with that, we are also helping the founders with a survival kit.
So you've also spoken with other founders, other startup founders like Zerodha and Upgrad. What is their take on the situation?
So Zerodha, again, it's a startup which is very unique to India. It's bootstrapped. It does not have founder money. It's looking at founders, it does not have investor money. It's now looking at investors because it is a very profitable business model and they are interested. So Nitin Kamath, definitely, it's a very interesting interview where he actually tells founders what to do, how they have to get out of this rat race. Easier said than done. You cannot survive without investors' money. So the idea would be to perhaps speak to investors, sell your dream to them, have conviction that you have a scalable business model, tell them that this entire journey from the idea to a minimum viable product to a product that can be sold in the market, this requires a certain timeline, and the founder will do it in that timeline. Ensure that the pressure from the investor is not such that these timelines are compressed, and in the entire process you're also compromising with the idea that you set out with. So those are some of his advices. Excellent advice. He also tells us how to ensure positive unit economics, which simply means that if you're making every transaction that you're making as a startup founder should be positive, should earn you money in some way or the other. He gives great advice how to cut cash burn. So apart from him, there's also another interesting interview that we have with Ronnie Screwvala, EdTech, a space which is seeing massive upheavals as of now. He tells us what's the future. You know, in a post-pandemic situation, students are going back to physical world. So is there really case for EdTech anymore? He believes yes. He also tells us which are those spaces where EdTech can still grow in India.